What's important, and the reason why we have municipalities, is to build stronger communities from one end of this province to the other. Now, we have incredibly exciting times right now. I know some of my colleagues look at me and say, you think this is exciting? It's kind of challenging times with the budget. With the economic circumstances in Europe and the United States teetering and no one knowing for sure whether they're going to come out. With the political challenges of trying to build a pipeline either east or west or south so we can get to tidal water so that we can bring that differential that's causing us such grief, that's caused the province of Alberta to lose $6 billion in a matter of months. They look at me and say, you think this is exciting? I do think it's exciting because there has never been a circumstance, whether it's in your personal life or your family or your business or your community, where you have made changes when you are successful. When you're successful, why would you make changes? Everything's working great. But when you come across challenging times, that's when you get to reevaluate what you're doing and plan for the next round of success. And that's why, you know, I've said it lots of times, and I get quoted on it sometimes, but there's a great quote that says, never waste a good crisis. And this is a fantastic crisis for the province of Alberta to have, because it forces us to sit back, reevaluate what we're doing, and make sure we're heading in the right direction. I don't think we've actually done that probably in 40 years. When Peter Lougheed was first elected, I mean, it was the year before I was born, but he's supposed to laugh. But 41 years ago, when Peter Lougheed was first elected, there was a battle going on in the province about what it was and what it could be. And the history books, from my inclinations, indicate that Peter Lougheed won, and it was all about what the province could be. And it turned into discussions about investments for the future. I mean, I know I hear some people say Lougheed was never a real true conservative because he spent a lot of money investing in the province. Other people say he was the last true conservative. I don't care about politics. The fact is that some of the strategic decisions that were made 40 years ago made the province that we have right now and led to the success and prosperity that makes us not just a leader in Western Canada or in Canada in general, but across North America. Look at the oil sands right now. We generate about $3 billion in revenue, but once those projects are capitalized, which we anticipate will happen over the next 5 to 10 years, depending on the price of oil, the province looks to reap as much as $16 billion in revenue every year from those capitalized projects. But it's all because of investment that was made 35 years ago and long-term thinking by Peter Lougheed. Well, right now, I think we're in the same boat. I think for the first time, we're having a serious discussion about what the province can be going forward. I know I've said in no small terms that I think we're actually battling for the future, the soul of this province. Because it's very easy on one side to have sound bites that say, just cut. Oh, you should just cut 10% across the board for every department. That'll get us out of this bind. That doesn't require 1 ounce of thinking. We have been working very hard over the last few months to make sure that any cuts that we make are going to be very strategic. And trust me, this is going to be a tough budget. There's going to be some tough decisions made, but it's going to be planned and strategic so that we can make sure we're still investing in the right places and building for the future, not just cutting for the sake of right now. Because quite frankly, it takes absolutely no vision to do one budget, to do this budget on what the price of oil is on Friday. Because it can change next Friday and change a year of Fridays from now and 10 years of Fridays from now. We need long-term strategic thinking and planning on what we want the province to be 20 years from now. We owe that to ourselves, but we owe that to the next generation of politicians who will stand up and be able to say those planning decisions, that long-term strategic plan done by the government 20 years ago helped to continue to build Alberta, just like I get to do today because of the decisions Peter Lougheed made 40 years ago. We owe that to the next generation. My kids are 4 and 7. I owe it to them. Because I'll tell you, that 10-second soundbite that says, oh, just cut. It's easy, just cut. That's all you need to do. It doesn't require any thinking. And it could balance the budget, but it will simply balance the budget on the backs of seniors that need proper housing, on the backs of kids that need schools, on the backs of everyone that needs proper health care, on the backs of municipalities that still have to invest in infrastructure just like the province does to accommodate the 1 million people that are going to move here in the next 10 years because this is the place to be. We owe it to them. to think about things long term. Now this is going to be a tough budget. It is. Make no mistake about that. But it's not going to be the last budget that we're going to have some serious discussions. In fact, I've said to some of my colleagues, I sometimes worry that the differential will narrow faster than we anticipated, and by next year, we could be back flush with cash. And my fear is that everyone will say, okay, we're fine, go back to normal. The province lost $6 billion. The federal government lost $8 billion in a matter of months because of this differential. Saskatchewan's in a similar boat. Many jurisdictions are in the same boat. But the problem remains, and it's only a structural problem without the way we fund things in the province of Alberta, because our economy is doing fantastic. But there's a structural problem with the province of Alberta. And I've said this many, many times before. We rely on oil and gas. The challenge we have is that everywhere I go, I hear people say, you guys need to quit relying on oil and gas to prop up your budget. But don't increase my taxes, and don't you dare cut a single service that we have. Well, you can't have it all three ways. There are some parties that will promise you all three ways, and they don't have to govern or live by that, so they can promise whatever they want. I do hear the odd person say, yes, we need to cut, but it's people in agriculture that say cut the seniors programs, or the seniors who say cut education. It's always somebody else that needs to cut, but no one ever offers up their programs. So we have to have a very frank discussion, because besides losing $6 billion out of the budget, there is an $8 billion gap between what we pay for as Albertans, if you take oil and gas out of the picture, and what we get as services. An $8 billion gap. And I anticipate, actually kind of hope, that this differential situation lasts for a couple of years so that we're forced to actually realistically evaluate our structural challenge in the province of Alberta. If we're not going to rely on oil and gas, we have an $8 billion gap to deal with. And you tell me where you're going to cut $8 billion out of the budget. Go ahead. I don't know. It's not that simple. And so we have to have a long-term discussion about what we want, what we're willing to pay for, how we're going to do it, not just next year, not just until we get oil revenues back and we can go back to smiling and pretending we don't have a structural challenge, but for the next 20 years so that we can make sure we quit riding these waves and these roller coasters. Now, we have some pretty exciting opportunities as well with the rewrite of the Municipal Government Act, with the passing of legislation with the Municipal Sustainability Strategy this spring. We have 911 legislation coming forward. We have some incredible opportunities going forward. And the Premier has said many times that we will not balance the books on the backs of municipalities. And she means it, and so do I. It's so easy, and it has been in 20 years ago, 1993, so easy to just cut all the money that was given to municipalities, because then when people were upset about the spending, they would go to municipalities and not us, and it was easier for us to balance our books. But look, we know the people that move here, the million people moving here, don't come with their roads and schools and hospitals, things that we have to provide. But they also don't come here with their water and wastewater, or recreation, or parks, or playgrounds, or police, fire, all those things that you guys provide. And so it's just as important, if we're going to build a better Alberta, that we assert first and foremost that municipalities are our province, are our partners, the most important partners that we're going to have in building a better province and building better communities. That's a message from me to you, from the Premier to you, and from all of my colleagues to you. I know you're going to look forward to the budget. I know I am. And I know there will be challenges, but I know that you'll also recognize how important our partnership is when you see what the budget is. I hope also that you partner with us not just on building better communities, but on encouraging that discussion that's going to be necessary for the next couple of years.